Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
This is Ed Cohen in San Diego, and Stephen Howard of Caliente Leadership is in Mexico City. And our very special guest today is Scott Shute in Silicon Valley. Hello, Scott.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for the graciousness of Stephen Howard. Stephen, over to you.
Well, Scott, I reached out to you because you had a quotation in a magazine called Mindful that said, we need to help employees heal, not just bring them back to the workforce. So can you elaborate a bit on that and then tell us a bit about your background and how you got into mindfulness and mindfulness training and coaching?
Absolutely. Well, it starts with heal, like just where are we as a people, right? And the CDC will tell us that about a third of us are suffering from anxiety and depression. About 83% of American workers are suffering from emotional drain or emotional burnout. And most alarmingly, 1 in 9 Americans in the last 30 days have thought seriously about taking their own lives.
Oh, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, 11%, right? So if you think about a workforce, it's the same demographics, right? It's the same. So this is where we are. And my belief is that companies can do more than just talk about bringing us back to work and which building or where or whatever, but can actually be part of the healing that needs to occur at the highest levels. We've had this division, the red and the blue, or the black, brown, and white, or whatever we are. We've been divided. And so if you think about all this, what's the role of a company? Well, I think that companies have never had more power. Companies can influence behavior at the individual level, at society level, in the way that governments and religions have been doing for thousands of years. And on the other side of things, employees have never had so much power inside of companies, right? If you briefly, the history of work, as we move from the agrarian age of kings and slaves or landowners and serfs to the industrial age of all of us as workers making the same stuff in a factory, in neither case were we very highly valued. But in the information age, employees have a lot of power. They have a lot of choice, right? And here's another fact: 56% of American workers are actively looking for their next job. And when I talk to leaders, one of the biggest challenges they have is getting enough people. So you put all of these things together, and it's really, really critical that companies spend time thinking about, okay, how do we take care of employees? So that's kind of the backdrop of where we are. Then it's okay, how? What can they do? And I think there's 3 things at the very high level. It starts at the top. It starts with the CEO or the leader of the organization deciding or talking about why the organization exists in the first place. And their language is very important. Do they spend all of their time talking about, hey, we're going to be the next unicorn, we're going to be a $10 billion company, whatever it is? Or do they talk about their customers? Do they talk about the good that the company's doing in the world, how we're moving the world forward? And I think this is really important because as an employee, looking up, looking around, do I feel good about what my company is doing? If I feel like the company is making, progress in the world, then that means that my work matters. And to the 11%, to all of us, it means my life matters, right? So the first thing a company can do is give us connection to purpose. The second thing a company can do, or an organization can do, can connect us with each other. Because in every organization, it's filled with people who are at all ends of the rainbow. All of the pieces that we've been divided are on the same team. And so when we're working towards a common goal, like at a company or a team, then we can start to see how we're more alike versus focusing only on our differences. Because the truth is, all of us, no matter how much we think we're divided, 98% we're the same. And it's the 2% we're different. We just focus on the differences.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
All these statistics that you mentioned, it's not at LinkedIn.
What do you mean?
Is that a normal place?
So those are the average for America.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Those are numbers from the CDC.
So it's composite. So there's some inkling of the same thing within every company then, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you just don't know.
You just don't know.
Right.
right? Unfortunately, suicide has been more a part of my life than I would prefer. And sometimes you just don't know. It could be the person sitting next to you on the bus or at the checkout counter in the grocery store or on your team. It's hard to know. And so we have to assume that these numbers are similar, at least in scale and shape over time, that they at any company or organization as they are for the broader population.
So the whole idea of LinkedIn in the early days, pre-Microsoft, was, as I'm not going to get it right, but just my thinking about it, is that it's hip and it's cool and it's actually a lot of work, but it's fun and people care about each other, and it's kind of a special place, wasn't it?
You mean at the company itself?
Yeah.
In the company, and it still is. Yeah, I don't think the Microsoft acquisition has changed the ethos of LinkedIn.
Good.
I think it's a set of leaders who are steeped in compassionate leadership behavior. It's a culture that is fun, consistently wins awards for, best places to work, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very much a place that lives in a compassionate way, both for our employees as well as for customers and members.
Yeah. So because the leadership evoked honesty, authenticity, right?
Yeah, I think so. And it's, we have a set of values that are steeped in compassion, and then a set of practices that back up those values and back up that discussion. And for me, it starts with kind of some high level values or ethos, even if they're not values. So as an example, in human resources, for a long time, the message was treat people beautifully. All right, you don't have to have a 1,000-page employee handbook. You just need this one sentence, treat people beautifully. And then every policy, everything that we do, you can measure, you can filter. Does it treat people beautifully? And on the customer, or we talk about members, like the nearly 800 million members who have a profile and use LinkedIn, one of our primary values is members first. So then you can take every behavior we do, how we sell, how we service, how we build products, and view it from this filter of, is it members first or not? Not members only, because there's always a balance. The company needs to stay in business, and we also have balance the needs of our employees. But we start with, when we're building something, members first.
Stephen?
Yeah, you were great. Thanks, Ed. So you were talking about the organizations can connect each other was your second point. What was your third point?
The third point is that organizations can actually help us connect to ourselves directly help with our mental well-being. And it could be, look, mental well-being is a spectrum, right? All the way from the emergency hotline, which is like the ER. And one step kind of in the yellow is, employee assistance programs, or being able to reach out and have, counseling at scale with things like Lyra or Talkspace or Ginger. But even for the kind of the green zone, like the gym or vitamins, is mindfulness programs. And this is what I helped create at LinkedIn, actively helping people connect to themselves, giving them the tools to, just like physical exercise helps you be more physically healthy, mental exercise that helps us all be more mentally healthy. And so being able to have a steady drip of programs like that span the gamut can directly help each of us as employees manage our own mental well-being.
And so your mindfulness programs and spreading the message, Scott, did you see a correlation also that people became more comfortable talking about mental well-being and emotional well-being and actually utilizing some of the other EAP programs in the organization?
I think so. I think it's part of the ecosystem that we all can talk about, right? On the one hand, you have mindfulness programs, and that's really important for it to be out there. It's also really important, I think, for leaders at every level of the organization, just to acknowledge that it's a thing, right? So if you have a CEO who acknowledges that this is challenging and the employees are really important, and so here are the things that we're going to do. We're putting our money where our mouth is. And that could be things like, hey, we're going to take every Friday afternoon off during the summer, or we're going to have no meetings, every other Friday, or whatever these things are. They just acknowledge that employees are important and we want to make sure that they are taking care of themselves, all the way to managers and leaders talking about their own challenges. Because oftentimes people, especially men, assume that if they are vulnerable, it's a weakness. But actually, everything that we know about it from the science and the practice shows us that vulnerability is actually a tremendous strength. And it's actually how you build loyalty in the organization. Because people know as a leader that you're not perfect, even if you're trying to put a facade of perfection on. And so if you acknowledge your own challenges, acknowledge that there are challenges in the organization, and acknowledge, hey, this is real, like, please get the help you need, then it allows for the conversation to happen at every level.
Okay, so I wrote a book a couple years ago about better decisions and help make better outcomes and better thinking. And part of it, in my book, I talked about mindfulness. So my experience outside California particularly was like, what are you talking about? Mindfulness, woohoo. This is the, and you're up there in Northern California now, and I was in Southern California at the time, so I could see LinkedIn and Silicon Valley. Yeah, mindfulness, we can get into this. Have you tried to spread this message to the eastern part of the United States, or let's say the southeastern, southwestern part of the United States?
This is everywhere. And I can talk about the growth that's happening. There's a group. So in Northern California, I lead a group of people who are bringing mindfulness to their workplace. But there are other groups. There's a Mindful on Wall Street of people who are bringing mindfulness to financial services companies. I just got off of a call. I was a keynote speaker at a company in the Midwest, and 300 or 400 people showing up at this mindfulness thing. Let me give you a corollary. If you think about mindfulness as mental exercise, let's talk about physical exercise. So I grew up on a farm in Kansas, which is, of course, where you learn to meditate. That's another story. And I was visiting my mom a couple of years ago. I was about to turn 50, and we had gone to this little antique store, and there's a bunch of magazines, and I wanted to buy some magazines from my birth year, 1969. And in one of them, okay, things have changed a lot, right? There were advertisements in 1969 about cigarettes, and the pitch man was a doctor.
Exactly.
It's always a white dude, in a white coat. And he's talking about the benefits of nicotine, right? The natural boost in your afternoon. There were articles about race and gender that would make you pucker today, probably get those journalists fired. And in the same magazine is an article about a Midwestern swim team who had been crushing it. They won a couple titles, and a reporter went to go find out what was going on. And the headline reads, "Athletes subject themselves to self-torture in order to win." I'm like, what is happening? Like, is it waterboarding? Is it electroshock therapy? All right. In 1969, what was so very freakishly out there, they were lifting weights, right? They were doing strength training. And so here's the thing. Our grandparents didn't exercise. They didn't have a Peloton, right? Exercise, physical exercise is a new thing. Only in the last 50 years has this become part of our routine. And the science has been there for longer. Okay, so in the same way, mental exercise, the science is already there. 6,000 peer-reviewed papers that show that meditation, mindfulness, reduces stress, reduces anxiety, increases the quality of relationships, increases the quality of leadership. And so slowly we're getting there. It's not going to take 50 years, but slowly we're going to get there where every organization in the world is thinking about their employees' mental wellness for the reasons we talked about at the top of the show. But they're going to realize, like, okay, we've got to do something. Like and when we start to separate the religion and the spirituality from mindfulness and just make it about the secular practice in the workplace, and then we get some of the science behind it to be a little more mainstream, then every organization in the world will have a position like mine was at LinkedIn.
Hi, this is Ed, and I thank you for tuning in to Global TV Talk Show, a unit on globalbusinessnews.net. We broadcast to the world, as you know by now. So I wanted to make sure that you understand that our programs are advertising supported. We're grateful for co-sponsors, advertisers. They have a marketing budget coupled with a strong desire to be associated with our top quality program. And of course, I'm grateful. Thank you. So for the next few minutes, you're going to see some commercials. It's mostly very low key. And Our prices are very, very reasonable. Our exposure for the advertisers go 12 months and beyond. Some of our advertisers have been with us since March, April of 2020. And Google Analytics has tracked over 125,000 what they call audience page views, which means you looking at this page, that's a page view. Now, if you happen to go to one of our other shows or to our radio broadcasts or to our newspaper or magazine, those become additional page views as measured by Google Analytics. And so when they say 125,000 since spring of 2020 up through Labor Day, a month ago, that's pretty good numbers. And the past 30 days, Google Analytics has measured just under 6,000 audience page views. And that, according to them, is a 42% increase in audience participation over the month of August. So thank you very much. Well, here's our advertisers, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes or so, and we'll proceed with this interesting conversation. Thank you.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Hi, I'm Sergey Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we're researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Would it be appropriate for the CEO or somebody high up to hold a mental awareness break by Zoom or LinkedIn Teams or whatever it's called, and just rather than in person, can't get everybody together, but everybody just close their eyes and picture a customer, anybody, and what they are thinking of you right now, something like that.
Interestingly enough, I did exactly that in a company all hands. 4 years ago, I led a 2-minute meditation for company all hands. So there's 400 people in the room and 8,000 or 10,000 people watching. And we did a little visual, exactly what you're saying. We did a little visualization about, think about all the customers and members out there and how your job connects to them, and just like take a break.
Well, yeah. Okay, I'm channeling Scott Shute.
Pretty good.
As you got into mindfulness and started, I want to use the word evangelistic because that's a Silicon Valley word, I guess. But as you promoted it within the organization and now outside the organization, what myths did you have to overcome? What people say to you, well, mindfulness, no, you just talked about spirituality the other day. I mean, so what myths did you have? Give us 2 or 3 myths that you had to disprove.
The myth that I don't have time for this. The myth that this is about religion or spirituality. The myth that compassion is only for the weak, right? So all of these, opposites are true. A compassionate leader, I think if I talk to 100 people, there's only a handful that are courageous enough, that have the guts, or we could use a different word, to be compassionate. It takes so much more strength than managing in the ways that we've been trained from the agrarian age or the industrial age. It was just kind of like, hey, I told you to do it, just get it done. That's not going to work as we evolve into the information age. It takes a real strength and courage to manage this way.
So your book is titled Full Body Yes, and it has an orange rhino on it. So there we go. Now hold it up. There we go. And so And I'll talk when I stop talking, because right now I think I'm on the screen, but hold it up when you start talking, Scott, again.
Okay.
So people can see.
Yeah.
Is tell us the background, why the title, what encouraged you to write the book, and then
Sure.
share the orange rhino story with us.
Sure. So it's called The Full Body Yes. The full body yes is really about when you just know. Have you ever had an experience where you just know, like 100%, right? And what's happening when we just know is that all of our bodies, you could say, align, right? So like my mental model for all this is I'm Scott at the root of it. You could call it whatever, soul, some deepest part of me. And I have a physical body, I have an emotional body, I have a mental body, all those things. But when they're all lined up, and we've all had these experiences, when they're all lined up, there's no more chaos inside. There's no more strain. It's just like you just know. And so sometimes that just happens to us. But we can also develop the strength and the technique to figure out how to make that happen for us when we're trying to make a decision. And so the why I wrote it, I've been thinking about writing a book since I was 15, since I was a ninth grader. And I was, the timing was perfect. I was driving home with a friend. We were coming home from a speaking thing. And my friend is driving and he gets this funny look on his face. And he says, "The universe has told me to tell you it's time to write your book." And I kind of checked in. I'm like, yeah, that feels right. The timing has just been perfect with all of this. And now we find ourselves in a situation where the world needs it, right? The world needs some techniques to figure out how to reduce stress, how to reduce anxiety, to get to that deepest part of myself where I can operate. And then not just in a high, like theoretical way, but practically, what do I do? Because my background is I was 25 years as an ops leader, right? I was leading a big organization at LinkedIn before I turned before I turned mindfulness and compassion into a profession. So I'm blending the two things together, the deep wisdom traditions that some of us come from, and the very practical, okay, how do I get stuff done? How do I be successful in the world that we live in?
So were you there when Steve Cadigan was there?
I think we overlapped in the very beginning.
Okay, good. He was our guest a while ago. Okay, so now in the news, the leader has said you don't have to come to work until January in the office, and wherever the office is these days.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that?
Well, I think there's several things here. First, giving employees more choice, I think, is a beautiful way on this path towards being more compassionate, right? Now, is it going to work? Nobody knows, right? I think this is the grand experiment of determining, does it work for every business? Does it work even within a company? Does it work for every work group? Are there some work groups where we really need to be together and some where it really doesn't matter? What if you're new in career versus late in career? Like my son just started working full time. He wants to be in the office. He wants his mentors to be in the office. Otherwise, how does he learn? Where I'm towards the end of my career, I don't want to be in the office.
Right.
Right. So it's such a complicated thing. But if it starts with this ethos of treat people beautifully, give people more choice, and collectively we'll figure it out, then I think we have a better chance of getting to a successful solution than if we have the autocratic, agrarian age, crack the whip, do it because I said do it because I told you to, right? So we're making progress.
Yeah. Last week or so, I saw this article somewhere. I don't know whether it was Inc. or Forbes, and it says there's an exasperated manager yelling and screaming to the walls, "I'm managing empty desks."
Yeah.
I know that was so funny. But right on. So what's your take about how to, without looking like a jerk or looking phony, how do you show caring for people who are on the other end of a Zoom call? And also, how do you inspire motivation and performance? And then how do you measure it?
Sure.
There's a lot there.
That's a whole another half hour. So, look, the starting piece is connection, right? How does it seem not phony? It needs to be not phony, right? Genuinely caring. This is why I say not most people don't have the skills to be a great manager, right? To be a courageous and compassionate manager. It starts with having self-awareness and then having awareness of other people, and then be truly, genuinely wish the best for them. All the while you're trying to get your stuff done, right? So it's a lot harder to manage this way, but it starts with building connection. Okay, what does that mean? It means in every one-on-one, I start by having a conversation, just checking in. Hey, how are you doing? No, really, how are you doing? Right? Not just the throwaway, hey, how are you doing? Great. Okay, let's move on. Like, no, I noticed your son was going through some hard stuff last time, like how he's like, really, this is how you build a connection. It takes longer. At our team meetings, when it's maybe the three of us are on a team, every time that we get together, or almost every time we get together, let's start the meeting by connecting first instead of just jumping into our tick list, right? And when you do that, it is genuine, right? You build the relationships, and those relationships, we don't have to be family, right? Because you may have to fire me at one point, but we do need to be connected. So it starts there. Then the second part of your question is, how do we get stuff done? Right? Well, then it's inspiring. It's like, hey, look, we're all in it together. We're all in it to do this. And if we talk about it in a way that is inspiring, here's why this work matters. Here's why it matters to our customers. Here's why it matters to our company. Here's why it matters to me as a leader. Here's why it matters to us in our own careers. I'm going to get a lot more out of my team than if I just say, hey, I need it by Thursday at 6, like not 6:05, 6, right? You get to the why. And then how do you measure it? You measure it. You can still measure things. You can still hold people accountable and be compassionate. It's like, hey man, we agreed, like you told me this was going to be done Thursday at 6 and you didn't give me any warning. And now you're telling me it's late. Like, that's not how this is going to work. Like, let's figure out a way to get this done. So you still hold people accountable, and you can do all of that in a compassionate way.
Yeah. Steve, I'm going to stop talking here, but I'm just thinking about remote talent and hiring in this era that we're in.
Yeah.
Must be really difficult. But I would imagine that talent acquisition is still going on, but it's all remote, right? It's all remote.
Absolutely.
It could be in Tokyo, could be anywhere.
That's right. And so what this whole thing has done is put an incredible pressure, back to the cartoon you'd seen or whatever it was, it puts incredible pressure on middle management, right? Because it's the middle managers who are left listening to the top that says, hey, here's where we're going, we got to get it done. And then also this increased pressure of not only dealing with themselves and their own mess going on, the kids screaming in the next room and trying to get it all done, but that same thing replicated in the rest of their organization. And so giving them these tools that we're talking about, first, awareness of self, the ability to regulate my mind and my emotions, to stay centered and grounded, to be able to be aware of others, to be able to manage all of this. It is a lot. And so these skills that we're talking about have never been more needed, and they have never been more needed by our middle managers.
Thank you.
I would totally agree with that. I mean, the stress in the workplace, the American Psychological Association came out before the pandemic and showed that workplace stress is now the #1 cause of stress in American adults. And, it used to be family concerns or financial concerns, but now it's workplace stress. And, unbelievable, we actually have something called the American Institute of Stress. I mean, I don't know any other country that has an Institute of Stress. So were you able to measure at all, Steve, Scott, in that you actually saw stress starting to be reduced over, the second or third year of your programs?
So some data is easier or harder to get to, but every day. So one of the things we do is we give everybody free access to an app. We love the one called Wise at Work from Wisdom Labs, because it's built for people who are working. And every year, usually in October, we do a 30-day challenge. It's a way for us to get the whole company or whoever wants to involved. And the challenge is, hey, use it 20 times during the month of October and we'll give you a free t-shirt or a hoodie last year. And never underestimate the power of a free hoodie on people's behavior. And so here's what we found. People who actually used it. So in other words, they used it at least 100 minutes during the month, which is not that much. That's 10 times of 10 minutes each. They did a before and after survey, right? And the number of people who said that they were totally stressed out and had low calm, that number reduced by 75%. And the number of the people who said that they had high degrees of calm and low degrees of stress, that number increased by 110%. So it absolutely, unquestionably works. But beyond that, beyond the data, there's the stories. You know, people reach out to me and tell me how their lives have changed, dramatically changed. So one woman reached out during pandemic time, a young mother, 2 little kids at home. And she said, look, thank you for offering these programs, because you know what? I'm screaming at my kids a lot less. And she said it in a way that I know she was kidding, but not really kidding, right? Because she was trying to do it all. She was mothering to 2 little ones. She's cleaning and cooking and, you know, taking care of the house, all while hitting her number at work. And she was trying to do all of it. And so these practices, she said, it made me a better mother. It made me a better partner. I'm getting so much more done at work. I'm just myself. To me, I'm like, this is why we work. This is why it's so important.
Good. I think we just had a technical glitch. We're going to look into that. So would you mind just quickly repeating what you just said about after she recognized that the stress level internally was causing her to want to scream at the kids, but she stopped.
Yeah. So that whole thing. So basically,
no, just paraphrase it. Thank you.
Yeah, basically, you know, she reached out and said, thank you for these programs. She said she was just a better version of herself. She was a better mother, a better worker, a better partner, just a better version of herself. And I think isn't that what every one of us wants to be when we get out of bed? You know, we just want to be a better version of ourselves today than we were yesterday.
Well, thank you, Scott. So Stephen, helping in your business of helping a manager become a leader or a better leader, this is all part of that, right?
Oh, there's no question about it. So I wanted to hear from Scott directly. I want to read his book, quite frankly. But yeah, when I coach things, I do the exact same thing Scott was talking about. I add one more component to it in that initial thing I start off first with, how's your family doing? Have you got kids at home, or, you know, schooling from home, and then how are you doing? But exactly the same concept of, and don't let them get away, I'm fine, and, you know, get into the work immediately, sort of thing. But I honestly believe, I think this is one of the 2 most important skills that leaders at every level, when I talk about leaders, supervisors, team leaders, managers, on up to executives, the understanding the emotional aspect and having empathy and understanding the emotional side of the workforce is extremely important. And then I think being able themselves, and then learning how to deal with ambiguity and uncertainty will be the second one. And I think mindfulness, in my opinion, and I'm not an expert on it, but I try and do it myself, but I think that helps me cope with ambiguity and uncertainty at times as well, and just focus on what I can control and what I can't control, and what I can influence and what I can't influence. And would you agree with that, Scott? Yeah.
Absolutely. We did LinkedIn did a workplace survey among hiring managers and heads of HR about what skills were most valuable right now. And the number 1 skill, beyond, you might have thought it was technical skill or whatever, the number 1 skill that employers are looking for right now is the ability to be resilient. Right? Because this is what we're going through. Yeah. And you build resilience through things like self-compassion and your mindset, having a growth mindset, being able to take care of your own, you know, emotions and regulate your own mind in a way. This is a skill of the 21st century, and especially the 21st century, COVID and beyond.
Well, talking about being resilient, Scott, you have just left the confines of a safe long-term career. And I think you're in your 4th day as an independent entrepreneur or consultant or something.
Something like that.
Something
I'm
like
a free-range
that.
chicken.
Here you go. So as you embark upon what I understand will be a coaching and consulting business, as well as promoting your book, what will be your key your key messages for the people you want to be talking to going forward?
Sure. It's the same 2 things I've been doing. Part of it is mainstreaming mindfulness, just making mental exercise as normal as physical exercise, and then operationalizing compassion. In other words, taking this big idea of compassion and breaking it down into its behaviors that we can talk about for each individual leader, but also talk about in the organization. Like, what are the practices we would put in place for a sales organization or an engineering organization or a customer service organization to make this ethos live? So that's the work I want to do.
Great. How will you go about that?
Yeah, well, speaking, consulting, book writing, coaching.
Not gonna. I mean, I'm going to make a joke out of this, but talking about how we got all of us got into aerobic exercise. I think it was because of the Jane Fonda workout videos. whether you're a female or male, you got into aerobics. So, are you going to give us a mindfulness workout video coming out sometime?
I already have some, my friend.
Yeah, good.
So I'm on. There's an app called Insight Timer. And I appear there live about every 2 weeks. I'm on LinkedIn Live about every week, leading meditation sessions and trying to do it in places that are very buttoned down, that don't normally have it, just to be part of the fabric, so that when somebody else comes to their place and says, hey, I think we should do mindfulness here, that sounds great. That's, it should be just like, hey, Ed, what are you doing this afternoon? Oh, I'm going to the TRX class. Well, it should just be like, I'm going to yoga or meditation meets with the same level of, oh yeah, cool, great, cool, I'll join you.
I'll join you.
So you're going to sing Kumbaya? Or?
There's no need to, we can make a joke out of it and be Kumbaya. This takes real courage, man.
It does.
Most people can't do this.
No.
And so, I know it was a throwaway comment, but we make fun of it, right? We make fun of it and dismiss it, just like we've dismissed women in the workplace for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
And so most people aren't there yet, but I'm out in front. And if people want to follow, people are winning by doing this practice.
Great. Well, you've got a great message, so we encourage you.
I think this has been really exciting. I've been taking old school notes here.
Awesome.
So it'll show up on our website. But Scott Shute, thank you. Please come back and do this again.
My pleasure.
And keep us informed of your progress towards happiness as an entrepreneur.
I will indeed. You'd asked me about the story of the orange rhino on the front of the book. Yeah. And we may have time, we may not have time for it, but I'll tell you this: if you go to my website at scottshute.com or thefullbodyyes.com and sign up for my newsletter, you get the story of the orange rhino for free, plus the first 2 chapters of the book. So Excellent. We'll leave it at that.
All right.
That's a good way to end. Thank you for being on Global TV Talk Show.
I appreciate it.
And I love LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
I've been fortunate enough to have 17,700 direct connections.
Excellent. Congratulations.
So now we want more.
Well, Scott, our paths are going to cross again, I'm sure. So as fellow authors and fellow mindfulness practitioners, I appreciate you joining us today.
Excellent. My pleasure.
Keep spreading the message.
So that's Scott in San Jose, Stephen Howard in Mexico City, and I'm in Seaport Village, San Diego. Thank you, and take care. Be safe.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.